Hello. Foreign Secretary, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
At what point do you declare the Iran deal dead?
Well, it isn't dead yet, and we are totally committed to keeping the Middle East denuclearized. If Iran acquires nuclear weapons, then other countries in the region will acquire nuclear weapons. It becomes a very, very toxic and dangerous situation. So we are looking to find a way to preserve the nuclear deal, which we think is the best way of keeping the Middle East as a whole nuclear weapon free. Iran is still a good year away from developing a nuclear weapon. We think there is still some closing but small window to keep the deal alive, and that's what I'm here to talk about.
And will you and the other EU nations take concrete action against what Iran has already done in breach of the deal?
We will, and there's something called a Joint Commission, which is the mechanism set up in the deal, which what happens when one side thinks the other side has breached it, and that will happen very soon.
And what form will that take?
Well, that is a proper joint investigation into what's happened. But what we're looking for is to give Iran a way out of this so that they can get back into compliance with that nuclear deal, because we've been very clear that a deal is a deal. If they breach that deal, there's no sort of observing the deal just in this part but not in that part. It has to be taken in its entirety, and we are clear that we need to see that deal being properly honoured.
And at what level do you think that you are the adults in the room here in Europe, with Iran on one side breaching the conditions of the deal, and on the other side, if we're to believe your outgoing ambassador to the US, the current administration only ditched the deal to spite President Obama?
Well, the thing that we agree with the Americans on is that the long-term solution to the tensions in the Middle East is an Iran which ceases the destabilizing activity that's happening in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, and that is the root cause of the problems. We have a different view as to how we keep the region denuclearized, but we have very open channels of communication on that, and I spoke to Secretary of State Pompeo yesterday, as well as talking to Foreign Minister Zarif in Iran the day before.
Minister, if you allow us.
And I was just going to say, how do you square the conundrum that on one level you need to be tough with the United States and say, look, we need to stick with this deal, but at the same time, if you're Prime Minister in a few weeks, you need to sign a trade deal with the US?
Well, what the US knows is that we consider them our closest ally. We believe the alliance between the UK and the US has been the foundation of global peace and prosperity over the last 75 years. But friends sometimes disagree, and when we do so openly. This is one of the very rare occasions when we do disagree, but that doesn't mean we don't work very closely with them in the pursuit of peace.
And you will be heading to America like Mr. Johnson says he will?